What's going on, guys? We're back with another video today, and the funny thing is I actually recorded a video a few days ago. It was about the Trailblazers and what kind of expect from them going into the season. But then the whole Jrue Holiday trade happened, and I kind of had to scrap that whole thing because I talked about, I thought maybe they would keep Jrue for a little bit before trading him, let him kind of maybe mentor the young guys before finding a spot for him somewhere mid-season, But that all changed when just the other day, the Portland Trailblazers traded Jrue Holiday to the Boston Celtics for Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, and 2 first-round picks. Let me see what those picks were exactly. A top 4 protected 2024 pick from the Warriors, which if it does get protected, it would turn into top 1 protected in 2025 and then unprotected in 2026. And then an unprotected 2029 pick from the Celtics themselves. So 2 first-round picks to add to their cachet of draft picks and 2 interesting players. So Robert Williams, it seems like for now at least they want to see what he can do. They want him to be a part of this team. Maybe he ends up becoming a building block for this team in the future. Maybe they end up flipping him because it doesn't work out, or maybe his injury problems end up being too much. But if everything goes well, he's an amazing defender for the Portland Trailblazers to build around, and it could be really good for them. Malcolm Brogdon, as good as he is, he just won 6th Man of the Year. It seems like he has an injury that might prove to be not career-ending, but might make him not the same player that he used to be. And if that's true, that's really too bad. He's a really good player. But I'd have to assume that the Trailblazers would flip Malcolm Brogdon for some sort of assets if anyone is willing to take that trade. Maybe like 2 second-round picks or something like that. That sounds crazy that that's all you get for Brogdon. Maybe 1 first-round pick, but I think you'd have to prove that he's still the guy. And you're running a risk there because if you hold on to him and he ends up not being that guy, then you might not really be able to move him. But if you move him sooner, you might get less assets than you would have if you let him play a little bit and show that he was good. But he just doesn't really fit into the Trailblazers timeline. So I assume they'll probably look to move him relatively soon. Maybe he'll be there at the start of the season, but I don't think it would make too much sense to have him there at the beginning of the season. But what this trade really is about is the Boston Celtics. And this trade is big for the Celtics. And a lot of people are kind of upset that they traded Robert Williams to go get Jrue Holiday. And yes, Robert Williams is one of the best defenders in the league if healthy. But that's kind of the big thing there, if healthy. And he has not been healthy for the majority of the last 3 years. He had one... Oh, I'm holding it like that. He had one relatively healthy year, but other than that, he's struggled to stay on the floor. And even last season, he wasn't playing that much in the playoffs. And it was just, you can't really hold on to this idea of a player when you're not getting that in reality. You've had a lot of success without him on the court, so let's go get something we can rely on a little bit more in Jrue Holiday. And Malcolm Brogdon, it seems like relationships with the Celtics had gone downhill ever since they tried to trade him earlier in the offseason, and it ended up not going through because of the injury concerns and the physical that he had with the Clippers. I think it was the Clippers. But yeah, so looks like they were just trying to move him. And they got a great player in Jrue Holiday who might be one of the best, if not the best, perimeter defenders. And I think who this is the worst for is the Milwaukee Bucks, who traded Jrue Holiday to the Trailblazers just days before. And now they have to deal with Jrue Holiday potentially in a playoff series guarding Damian Lillard. And of course, is Damian Lillard. That's not going to be too big of a deal, I'd say. But the Trailblazers did get swept by the Pelicans a few years ago in the playoffs when Jrue Holiday was still there with Anthony Davis. But it's just something that kind of shifts the tables back, not necessarily in favor of Boston, but I think everyone had agreed that like this made Milwaukee the best team in the East. Now it's a little bit more like, oh, who's the best in the East, Boston or Milwaukee? And, you know, it's honestly pretty tough to say, you know, because Boston, they have an interesting lineup where they have Kristaps Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Jrue Holiday, and then whoever else the fifth guy is in the starting lineup, Derek White, Al Horford, you know, someone like that. And that's dangerous. So Jrue Holiday was a pretty good third option for the Bucks, but now he's probably the fourth option for the Celtics, assuming Kristaps is healthy. So a little less stress on offense for Jrue Holiday. He can maybe focus a little more on the defense side of the ball, and he can maybe have a little more efficiency on the offensive side, which he's been good about in the regular season, but he just hasn't really put together any efficient offensive play in the playoffs. Maybe he can do that for Boston. We'll just have to wait and see. But, you know, this will be a real grudge match of the two powerhouses in the East, I assume. You know, anything could happen during the season, but right now it looks like it's going to come down to who can win between the Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. You know, who can deal with Giannis on the Celtics? And you know, the short answer is nobody. You know, nobody can deal with Giannis, but they have some height with Porzingis, and you know, historically, Giannis has kind of owned Porzingis, but still, you know. That big body, for a big man, he's pretty athletic, can move fairly well. Al Horford, he's getting up there in age, but from everything we've seen, he's still a pretty solid defender. He can shoot threes. They have some size to where they're not going to get absolutely obliterated by Giannis, I think. Obviously, there's no stopping him, but maybe they can contain him a little bit. So this is probably the worst nightmare case scenario for the Milwaukee Bucks. They trade away their star defender to bring in this offensive powerhouse in Damian Lillard, and then their number one competition goes and gets the guy they just traded away, who's, if anyone could stop Damian Lillard, it would be him. Not saying that he will stop Damian Lillard, but if you had to pick someone to be like, they're going to lock up Damian Lillard, this would be the guy you want. So that makes it kind of tough for the Celtics. I'm not going to say it's tough for the Celtics, but that's definitely going to make it tougher for the Celtics to make it to the finals. So I think this would be a matchup for the ages in the playoffs. This would be one that is must-see TV, assuming both of these teams are healthy, which I hope they are, because this would just be great games to watch. I can only assume it'd be really entertaining to watch these teams go at it. And all this kind of just leaves the Miami Heat kind of wondering what's going on. You know, they didn't really make any additions other than Josh Richardson, and their other acquisitions, did they make anything? They drafted Jaime Jaquez, they lost Gabe Vincent, they lost Max Strus. You know, it's kind of tough to see the Heat getting back to the finals, which they probably won't. They were literally the 8th seed last year. They almost lost in the play-in. They went on this crazy run with great shooting. I don't see the Heat as a real threat to repeat. Tyler Hero, assuming Tyler Hero will be there, that's something interesting. You know, I will never count the Heat out on getting out of the first round, but I don't see the Heat making another run at the finals. There's way too much stuff going on with the 76ers right now. I don't even know what to think about them. And other than that, who's there? The Cavs? The Cavs are interesting because I would say the Cavs probably have more depth than both Boston and Milwaukee. Because that's another thing that I think gets blown out of proportion a little bit. People talking about how, Milwaukee has no depth now, or Boston has no depth now. But I think you can agree that pretty much their only competition is each other. And if neither of them really have that depth, is it really that big of a deal? Now, this is where I think Cleveland could be interesting, because maybe, you know, with a player like Donovan Mitchell, who's shown he can be that guy in the playoffs. If Evan Mobley takes a step forward, Darius Garland's having an all-star year, Jarrett Allen, all their guys they have on that team, they have Max Strus now, actually. Could their depth kind of propel them over these teams? I think that would be really interesting to see. I'm not saying it will happen, but I do think if if Milwaukee or Boston were to fall to a team that's not each other, I think it would be to Cleveland. And that's kind of tough to say after Cleveland just got shellacked in the playoffs by the Knicks this year. But I am kind of a big believer in Cleveland. I like what they have there. I don't think they're better than Milwaukee or Boston. But if there was a team in the East to do it, I think it would be Cleveland. But yeah, this Jrue Holiday trade really mixes things up in the East. And it changes things for the Trailblazers. So there's a lot to see unfold here. I'm excited to see it. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments. Like the video if you did. Maybe subscribe. I appreciate you guys. All right, I'll see you guys later.